Hey everybody, welcome back to the RJR Football channel on YouTube. This is Daniel Harms once again right before the draft. Yesterday we saw the Cornell Powell video that I did of my day three guy who I think could come in and actually be a contributor on the offense. And now we're going to take a look at the defensive side. And this is kind of a two-part video in the sense that there's two guys from the exact same school who I ended up watching. And I think that should give you a pretty good clue for what we're going to talk about today. But there's two defensive ends that I think are going to go on day three, maybe early to mid day three in terms of round four, maybe early round five, probably still in the round four area in Josh Kaindoh and Janarius Robinson. Both defensive ends played at Florida State. And the funny thing about this is I feel like Florida State is one of those programs that just don't do a very good job of developing their players. And these two are perfect examples of that because they are both 6'5", long. Kaindoh has 34-inch arms and Robinson has 35-inch arms. Like, these guys are huge and they're built to play in this Spags defense. Specifically, I believe either one of them could really come in and actually be a potential starter at defensive end across from Frank Clark if they choose to continue to have him on the team. And we'll start with Kaindoh a little bit because I think that one thing that really goes unnoticed from both of these guys is Kaindoh got kind of washed out a little bit by Robinson, who has probably the higher ceiling in terms of the athleticism and the things that he do that really flash off of the page. But I think that one thing that Kaindoh was able to do a little bit better of is just be more consistent. And he has more flexibility and bend around the edge than Robinson does per se. Granted, Robinson's a bit stronger, and you can see one of the clips that I put on Twitter yesterday. He's just able to bench press this offensive tackle into the ground, and he's able to get him right off. It was a short, fourth and short against UNC, and he just bench pressed this offensive tackle up and over onto the ground. When he's down in his stance and he can do that, it's a completely different kind of player. But Kaindoh does some things athletically well too. Like I said, he has more bender on the edge, and he's really good with his hands. Like, he has a good understanding of how to use them and how to get through his progressions in terms of going from pass rushes to counters and things like that. But both of these guys in Kaindoh and Robinson had issues getting their pass rush plans moving. They got stuck. They have a lot of physical tools and things that they can use really well, like strength, for example. Both of them bench pressed over 21 pounds at their pro day. They both were around the same time in their 4.65-ish, 4.6, just a little bit more so for Robinson. But they're athletes. Kaindoh has a bit better get off, in my opinion, because he played out of his 4-point stance more often, and Robinson played more out of a 2-point stance. I think both of these players, you want them the hands in the dirt. That's where their explosion is best, and that's something that I noticed, especially from Robinson, who, like I mentioned, he was up on his 2-point stance a little more often. You don't really want to see that coming into a 4-3 Spags defense. He's not going to do that. This is not a 3-4 like we saw with Bob Sutton. So you want to get his hands in the dirt and use his athleticism and that burst that he has out of the 3-point stance or a 4-point stance to get around. He doesn't have the bend that Kaindoh does, in my opinion. He's a little bit stiffer around the edge, but that also could be due to his development at Florida State. I think he's got the athletic profile to be able to bend underneath tackles in their arms and things like that. But both of them, like I said, they're just not able to use a lot of their physical tools and progress. I think in large part because the coaching staff just doesn't know what they're doing. You get them in Kansas City, and I think that you've got a lot of obviously really good guys, coaches that can help them and coach them up. We start with Spags at the top, who likes these bigger 260+ pound defensive ends, big, long. They both have the perfect physical attributes to play defensive end in this system, and you get them with Coach Daly. I think that's ideally what you want to do, because both of these guys have everything that you could want from the Spags defensive end in terms, like I said, the physicality. They're both very strong, over 21 bench presses, like I mentioned, but they also have some short area quickness and some explosive assets to them. 36-inch vertical from Kaindoh, specifically, but I think that they both really do some things with their hands, and they flash a lot of things at the same time. The pass rush plan needs development for both. Robinson more so because he has so many different ways of beating players. I think that he kind of gets lost in his own mind sometimes, and he gets stuck trying to swim and trying to slap and things like that. And he doesn't realize to just kind of engage a little bit and use some more push pulls, which is something he really needs to. He has 35-inch arms. You can use your length to your advantage in almost any situation. There aren't guys even in the NFL that are going to have longer arms than you for a 35+ inch arm length that he has. He's 35.25 according to the what I have written down here. So he definitely has that kind of ability to use the length that he has, use more push pulls and things like that, and really swim and get ripped underneath. So multiple times I see him flash on pass rush situations or even run downs where he'll rip underneath, but then he gets stuck standing up a little bit too much. So both of these guys need some development, obviously. That's why they're probably going to go on day 3, probably round 4, because you want to hit on in those the guys with the attributes and the traits and things like that. So I think that both Janarius Robinson and Josh Kaindoh are ideal fits for what Spags wants to do. And there's a reason that I believe that day 3 has a lot of these types of fits. And this defensive end class is not very good. It's more so a couple guys at the top, Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari, Kwity Paye, really kind of separate themselves from everybody else, in my opinion. You have Jason Owe, who could become a really, really good defensive end, but he's just an athlete playing the position. He still has a lot of processing issues, but it kind of like mirrors what Janarius Robinson and Josh Kaindoh are. He's a way better athlete than them, but the production is really what we're looking at. And I think that developing is the biggest key. And you can get some guys that are good athletes that have some burst, that have that strength and physicality that Spags really wants at a defensive end. You can get them on day 4, which is why I've held the belief that they're going to target somebody on day 4, unless a guy like Jason Owe or someone that they really love at the top falls to them at 58. And then that's going to throw a wrench in things. But there's a lot of Spags type defensive ends in this draft. And I think that if you can just teach some of these guys like Robinson and Kaindoh to use their head a little bit more instead of just trying to use their physical attributes to win, then you're going to get not only a guy who can be a starter, but be a productive starter, because he didn't have that production either. He had 8 sacks, or Robinson only had 8 sacks in his entire FSU career. Again, once you learn how to use the traits and tools you have, that's when you're going to start to get that production. Something that, K-Pass never was able to do. He was just never able to learn his physical tools and things like that. So I believe that Robinson and Kaindoh can both become good starters in the NFL. And now it's all about the production. So you bring them into a defense that uses the rotation like Spags does, and that will allow them to learn from guys like Frank Clark and some of the younger guys. I think Mike Dana is going to be a bit more used this year. I was talking about Charlton. I think they're going to use Tim Ward as well. And you get them into the system with these more experienced guys, and I think you can really develop that. So these are 2 guys I like on day 3. I think Robinson might go before Kaindoh, so whichever one is going to be on the board there, I think can really add something to this defense. So if you guys have some more late sleepers that you really like that you've seen on tape, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We'll look at them as quickly as I can so that we can get this ready for the draft. It's almost here. Like, today's Thursday, so it's going to be tonight. Ryan and I will be going live for the whole first round, the whole second round. We're going to pop in sometime on day 3, depending on how that goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a great day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.